We are up and we are running.
Okay, I'll call, meeting.
Is it set so I can share the screen when it's my turn?
When it's your turn, yep, and we've got a camera we'll put onto the other TV so people can see it from home.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Is there anything else before we start that anyone would like added to the agenda today to discuss? If not, then I think we'll go right to the new business, and we're all anxious to hear the results of that Leatherman survey, so who wants to take over?
I think Peter will take over.
Peter, okay.
Okay, you wanna
share your screen? I'll move that.
I'm gonna move the. Remember how to do that? Alright.
This host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, well, might as well. All right, try it now.
Nope.
How about now?
That did it.
Okay. Okay. Did it? There we go.
Everybody, you can see the screen okay?
Yep.
Camera good, Jim?
Yep.
All right.
Peter, if you could just introduce yourself quick, if you don't mind, just for the, anybody else that may be watching?
Sure. My name is Peter Leatherman. I'm the managing partner of the Morris Leatherman Company. We're in Minneapolis, and I've been doing polling for 29 years in the state of Minnesota and across the upper Midwest. So it's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, or to be virtually with you this afternoon. Just to review with everybody what we undertook. This is a little bit larger sample. We spoke with 500 randomly selected residents across the community. Of 500 samples projected plus or minus 4.5% in 95 out of 100 cases. This was a shorter survey, more concentrated than the one we did earlier this year in February. So the average interview time was 6 minutes. Non-response rate was 5.5%. This is hot off the presses. This survey was ended, the calls ended last Thursday. Field work was done between June 20th and the 29th. Put up some charts to look at the profile, the demographics. Cell phone only households were 42%, 15% were landline only households, and then 43% had both landline and cell phones. Continuing with the methodology, you had 25% that have been in the district for 10 years or less, while you have 27% that have been in the district for over 30 years. Median on this one comes in at about 18 years the typical resident has lived in the district. 15% have preschooler or an infant in their household, 20% have a child attending the Bolt School District, and 77% are empty nesters. And once again, like I mentioned earlier this year, empty nester does not imply an age, just lack of presence of a child. So you could have a 32-year-old without a child. They're an empty nester. And as we go through the data, that basically 8 out of 10 people do not have a child. They're not kind of your main constituency, shall we say, for the school district. 23% indicated that they were renters. Median comes in right at about $110,000, the typical house. Homeowner indicates their house is valued at. Continuing, 36% were high school grads or less. 30% had some college experience. 34% were college graduates. You can see the geographic distribution. 46% were in the city of Olivia, 21% in Bird Island, 5% Lake Lillian, 28% in the remaining areas of the district. 20% of the sample indicated that they own agricultural property. And then the final set of demographics, 23% were 18 to 34-year-olds, while 40% were over the age of 55. On this one, median comes in just short of 50 years. The typical resident is years old. 2% more female than women. And like I mentioned with the February survey, 2 macro factors going on out there for all school districts in the state of Minnesota this year is the economic insecurity. Your financially stressed is actually down. It's actually down just past statistical significance. It was 58%. It's 53% now, so it is moving in the right direction. We're seeing a bit of a drop now. It seems like now the January, February, March timeframe had the highest level of financial insecurity. But just remember, this is still much higher. Pre-pandemic, this number across the state of Minnesota was about 30%. So we're still significantly higher, but it has stopped climbing as a concern. And this question doesn't ask about their income specifically. It asks about their income and their expenses and how they're matching up. We just checked in on a few atmospherics to see if anything has changed between February and June. And the two ones I wanted to test, since you're going through the facilities planning, is does the community think that you're involved, do a good job of involving them? And it is unchanged. It was 70%. This time it's 71%. Norm on this right now is about 66%. So you're stable throughout this process. People still do feel engaged by the process. What about the question, the schools are a good investment and I would support a property tax increase to protect that investment? This is interesting in that the key number that I always look at here is the disagreement. Because once again, the question does not indicate whether it's a bond referendum, an operating levy, what have you. It's simply that tells you the core opposition. Your core opposition actually went down 2 points, but so did the people saying yes. They shifted into the unsure category. And I think part of that we're going to see in a chart coming up is about they're more aware of the discussions now. So they're kind of waiting to see what comes out before they're going to commit one way or the other. But the key is that you still only have less than 35% indicating that no, they would not support anything. We saw the drop in the financial insecurity. We also see a very large drop in property tax hostility. I said back first part of this year, November 15th last year was like somebody flipped the light switch on property tax hostility in the state of Minnesota, and it has started to abate, and we see it in your district now. Back in February, the dark green bar, 63% thought their total property taxes were high. This time, 50% think their property taxes are high. On the school taxes, the dark blue bar, 61% think their school taxes are high. This time, 43% say their school taxes are high. So this is moving in the right direction. You're at 50%. It's still a threshold indicating it's a hostile property tax climate, but you have 13% less folks indicating that it's high. And once again, the good news is if they think their taxes are high, their animus is not focused at the school district, because the school district, the total's 50, the school district drops down to 43. Their hostility, their animus for their hostility is focused more on city and county, more so the school district. That's the good news. The bad news is really the school district's the only show in town that has to go to residents for a property tax increase. Is the district adequately funded? We did not ask this question back in the February survey, but I wanted to ask it in this survey simply because of the legislature and all the magic that they finished up with in May to see if that has impacted. It's very interesting right now. What we're finding since the legislature finished before Memorial Day is a pronounced difference between the metro area and greater Minnesota in people's perception that school district is adequately funded. I think, quite frankly, a lot of greater Minnesota doesn't necessarily believe what the governor says in that sense. And so we see a similar pattern here. The metro area now, this is up to 55 to 60% indicating, yes, they're adequately funded. The messaging impacted the metro area. It is not impacting greater Minnesota. And we see that even split here of 48% saying yes, 43% saying no, and 9% are unsure. Switching over specifically to the bond referendum now, are they following the discussions? I think everybody kind of felt bad a bit when I presented back in February that only 35% were following the discussions. there's a statistically significant increase, 15%, up to 50% saying yes, 50% saying no. And just keep in mind on this one, the threshold, you'll never have 100% indicating that they're following the discussions. If you get to 60 to 70%, you're doing an amazing job. So you have more people now aware of what's going on, which also bodes well when you think about that as the district doing a good job of involving the community. You have more people engaged that are actually indicating, yes, the district is involving the community. There's more awareness now. What's the predisposition? Well, we have a statistically significant change, and this definitely has to do with the macro indicators. Property tax hostility going down, financial insecurity going down. The core opposition does not change. If they heard the district was going to ask for a property tax increase, are they for all, against all, or are they persuadable? The against all remained at 27%. We always want that to be under 30%, so you maintain that level. You have a 6-point shift from persuadable to for all. So part of that is definitely the macro issues, but probably also with an increase in awareness that the district has and following the discussions, you now have more support for items that are being considered. What did folks feel about the $39.9 million bond referendum? At the outset, we have 51% support, 43% opposed, and 6% are unsure. There's not a lot of intensity one way or the other. You can see strong supports at 10%, strong opposition at 9%. And so this is the baseline start of where folks are. When we look at the reason for the position on the bond, at this point in time, still, there's been no campaign, really. There's just been discussion about what's going on with the facilities plan. Right now, they're the soft reasons for support. Education's important. The cost is reasonable. Then need, the 12% need, 11% children. By election day, if you do go forward, need needs to be number one. That's what gets people to the polls. What is the reason for opposition? Well, first off, this tells us that it's not so much plan specific. Right? It's not that you have the wrong plan here. It's the cost factor. 13% are saying the cost is too high, 12% poor spending, 10% taxes are already too high. The poor spending is a universal constant across the state of Minnesota. Every district has between 8 and 12% that will never support anything because of poor spending. And it might be poor spending from last year, it might be poor spending from 30 years ago. They're just entrenched and they're not going to support anything. So the key for opposition at this point in time is that fiscal component, and that is similar across the entire state of Minnesota. Now, we went through a list of arguments in favor of the bond referendum and then a list of arguments opposed to the bond referendum. We really have two clear winners on this one for arguments to make people much more likely to support. Replacing worn-out heating and ventilation, plumbing, power, roofing, and masonry systems that maintain the building for long-term use. 40% say much more likely, 67% total impact. The other one that has the most impact, many students benefit from career-based hands-on learning in the Agricultural Technical Education Center. Enhancements to these spaces are important as general education classrooms. Same impact, 40 and a total of 67. The security portion, providing a single controlled public entry point to the school, new fire alarm, security cameras, mass notification system protects students and staff, comes in a very close third and statistical tie with the previous two at 37%. Then we drop down to the low 30s on two items, and that's the students who utilize more technology in the classroom. The district's technology infrastructure needs to keep pace to ensure reliability. And then by providing renovated modern classroom spaces with flexible furniture and adequate storage will help facilitate varied teaching and learning methods to improve the effectiveness of student learning. Those are the top five. Everything else down is all the way, is less. Three out of the bottom four revolve around the Bird Island as a reason to support. And at the very bottom, the district should maintain a presence in Bird Island and reinvest in athletic and performing arts spaces. Those are the key reasons in support of the bond referendum. What are reasons against the bond referendum and what impact do they have? Well, it's not surprising. Every district, this is the argument this year, and that is with inflation and the cost of living increasing, many cannot afford a property tax increase despite the district's needs. And that goes back to you have people that would support but can't afford to. 34% indicate it makes them much more likely to oppose, 67% impact. We then drop down, and it's interesting the Bird Island question and how it splits. You actually have more people indicating too much is being spent at Bird Island. The argument that we posted is this elementary school, or I'm sorry, $6 million is too much to invest in Bird Island site for the intended purposes. 29% much more likely, 53% somewhat more. The local property taxes are going up too quickly. Homeowners can't afford additional taxes. Then the legislature just increased funding. And then the opposite argument that not enough is going into Bird Island has very little traction. The elementary school in Bird Island should be reopened. Since this plan does not include this, I don't support the bond referendum. And we're going to see in just a chart, in a couple charts, specifically the Bird Island question and where the community lands on that. So they've heard all the arguments in favor, all the arguments in opposition. How do they fall out? They're unchanged from the pre-test, where we didn't give them any information. We've now given them information. There's really no change. You have 51% supporting, you have 43% opposing, and 5% are unsure. So with the community as a whole, we told them, I believe it was, let me just make sure I have the correct number. It was $17 a month on the average home of $131,500. With that information, it splits, and it is driven by the cost factors. It's not that the plan is wrong, but when we look at likely voters right now, we can see a marked difference. Likely voters, they had to tell us they're registered to vote, that they're absolutely certain they've always voted in the past, and they're absolutely certain to vote in November. Now this one, there's always a fudge factor. People don't want to admit that they don't vote, just like they don't want to admit they don't recycle. And so on this one, we have 36% falling into the category indicating that they're likely voters. That's on the high side. I would expect in an off-year election, it'd be somewhere in the 20 to 30% range, but your likely voters are very supportive at this point in time. They are motivated. 63% support, 33% opposed, and 5% are unsure. Strong support outpaces strong opposition by 6 points. And so really, this is going to come down to the Vote Yes Committee and who shows up on election day. That's going to be the critical piece on this, because the support is in there for the bond referendum and for the components being tested. Then finally, we asked the question about Bird Island. Would folks support a property tax increase to reopen Bird Island Elementary School? And we told people the language is an option to complete and renovate the Bird Island building and reopen it as an elementary school was evaluated by the facility committee. It was determined it would be more costly to renovate both buildings as well as more expensive to staff and maintain schools annually. Including this option would increase the overall cost and property tax increase for residents. And we saw that there was no clear direction in the previous survey on what folks wanted done with Bird Island, but reopening it as an elementary school, people do not support a property tax increase for that purpose. We have 23% that support, we have 68% that indicate no, and 9% are unsure. If we look at intensity, it's 6% strong yes, it's more than double the strong no. We followed up with those that said yes, and it is 23%. How much would they be willing to see a property tax for property tax increase to open Bird Island as an elementary school? they would support about $9 a month. That 23% would, but you still then have that 68% that would not support. The Bird Island issue cuts, I mean, quite it's a geographic when 20% of the district is in Bird Island. That it really cuts, and it cuts more for Bird Island being, if anything, the planned portion of it, the specifics we tested was the district should maintain a presence in Bird Island and reinvest in athletic and performing arts spaces. So with that is all the charts. I'll probably just open it up for discussion at this point.
I have one question, and maybe you answered it. On the likely voters, of the 500 participants that took place, what was the total number of people said they would be a likely vote? Did you say that, or you just had to break down?
Yeah, 36% fall into that category.
So 36% of the 500 said that they would vote. Okay.
Yes.
You said that's above the average?
That was a little generous.
That's high. That would be a very good turnout in an off-year election. Typically, it's somewhere between 20 and 30% in school districts. I've seen it. I mean, the largest bond referendum in the state of Minnesota just passed this May in Rosemont, Apple Valley, Eagan, and turnout was 10%.
Did you do a survey for that district?
Yes.
Can I ask do you recall maybe what percentage of voters said they would turn out?
Oh, we did the survey for them back in October of last year, so even before the gubernatorial election.
Okay.
So we didn't ask about likely vote because we still had an election in between. And so we only do the likely voter when we get close to election time.
And out of only the 10% that showed up, was the vote close? Do you recall?
It was 60-40. Both. It was both. They had two questions. One was approximately 300 million. The other one was almost 200 million. And they passed in unison.
May I ask a question then? Say, Peter, Mike David here. The Rosemont Apple Valley referendum, I believe, was in May, correct?
Yes.
And is there, even in an off-year election, is turnout likely to be a little bit higher in November as opposed to May?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, August is abysmal for turnout. There's no point. But May would be second worst because people have spring fever. I mean, and the thing is, when we're talking about a coalition of supporters for a referendum, it's based around parents, and that's who has to turn out. And over the last decade, in all the research, what we've seen, when you look at who turns out in special elections, 20, 25 years ago, parents overrepresented. So like in your case, 20% households with children. In an off-year election, you'd have 30-35% of voters be parents. Now what we found in the last decade is we're lucky if parents represent at the level that they are actually in overall the demographics, which is very troubling. Consistently, we have found that when we look at it, and it's younger parents, I don't know if it's the millennial thing or what have you, but they have shown again and again, if the kid has hockey that night or basketball or dance, the kid's going to sports if there's any sort of time crunch. in a sense. And so there really has to be a concerted effort. That's why you need an incredible vote yes effort in order to get those people out, because your most likely supporter is your least likely voter in an off-year election.
Is there one or a couple things that we can address from a plan standpoint at this point in time that would swing some of the voters based on you seeing, I mean, because if there's strong opposition to Bird Island, I mean, is there like something we could change in a plan that may change some of those people right away? Anything show up in that aspect of it?
There really isn't. I mean, when we ask that question after we get the response on the pretest on the bond referendum, you know, the reason for opposition, you only had it, I believe it was 2% said that this isn't needed. Really, nobody dove into the details of the plan and said too much for Bird Island. It's all cost in that sense. Are there items that could you eliminate if, you know, we tested $17? Could you get down to, to eliminate $1 is a distinction without a difference. But if you could get down and say, I don't know, $13 a month, with something in that range. I mean, there's a clear prioritization when you look at the arguments in the bond referendum on where people really want the dollars invested. And that basically was the deferred maintenance, the security, the agricultural education center, those items. So is there a potential? Can you bring people along? Yes, you could if you cut it down a little bit. But it really depends on, does that eliminate a basis of vote yes of people that will support in that sense? You do have, the Bird Island issue cuts both ways. I mean, people are unhappy it's not being open as an elementary school, but you have more people unhappy that you're spending more money on Bird Island in that sense. So, it really is. But if you can lower the overall tax impact, that would help the most.
Would you say it's good or bad to have a 1-question ballot or a 2-question ballot, putting?
I just heard 2 question. I'm assuming is it a 1-question or 2-question?
Correct.
Right, correct.
Is that the question? It makes sense to do 2 questions if there's a clear delineation of project. A few districts have done it in the past, but it really kind of separates from academics in the school building itself, and then the second question is sports or performing arts or something along those lines. What we have seen recently is 2 questions ballots be pretty successful. 25 years ago, it really was true that second questions were kind of sacrificial lambs. That's no longer the case. I'm not sure if there's a clear delineation within your plan on how you could do, because kind of my understanding is the Bird Island piece, if you have Bird Island in the first part to be remodeled, how does that play out? I'm not sure in the clear delineation, but I think anything that could be done to lower the cost would help. I mean, quite frankly, you're in that much better shape. When I started this brush fire, and looking back to where we were in February, you're in much better shape than I expected. I mean, there is a chance of success here. It's all going to come down to the campaign and the effort.
Any other questions? I'm assuming we'll all get hard copies that could be of the survey again, like last time. Yeah. Sent around. Okay.
I'll leave that with Jim right now.
Okay. No other questions? And Peter, if you don't have anything else, then I guess we'll let you go.
Wonderful. Be well. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jackie, it looks like you're gonna get cut off here in about 10 minutes. I don't know why I did
I
this.
saw that.
It's a Zoom instead of a Hangout. I never do that. If you do, I'll restart it.
Okay, thank you.
You want to have some discussion on the one question versus two question?
Well, I think just a general comment on the surveys, I think it's a little bit of a validation as to our efforts since the first one to come into this one, that we have made progress on, putting something out there that people are understanding, that people are looking forward. I think we made the right decision in going the direction we did with as hard as it was, of the no elementary kids in Rhode Island, because that's what the first survey told us. And this survey just backed that up. So I think, it's a little bit of, it just says that, we heard the first one and we made the decisions we had to make to get to this point. So it's, that validation, I think, is important in light of some of the circumstances going on right now.
The only thing I would say on the one or two question, would it be beneficial to move some of the sports improvement stuff to a second question? Leave all the educational part on the first question. Would it help us in any way to pass it? Or would it be a detriment?
But I think it goes back to what Peter said, is that if there's I would say that if we were going to say upgrade the football field is one thing, but putting a new floor in the gym inside the building might be something different. He said if it's a clear delineation or whatever, because if there's something we have to do in the process of construction, it should be one, but if we're gonna put like new bleachers and everything out on a different one, I think that would make it a clear number two. In this in this particular case, if we don't do anything at Bird Island, and put that as like question two,
I think that would be a detriment.
okay.
I think.
Well, I'm just saying, because we don't have anything for theater, anything in the initial plan at Olivia, so then we'd have to make big changes there, and I think that would upset. I firmly believe we have to do something at Bird Island. It's just a matter of what.
And I kind of like the idea originally too of pulling out some of the sports, like the gym floors and some of that stuff. But then at the same time, if we're, what it's like doing construction, if we're doing it and they're here, it's gonna be somewhat advantageous to have that knocked out. And I agree, kind of like Pat said, if we were building a whole brand new gymnasium or something specifically, then I'd say definitely pull it out. But I think since we're looking at just some remodeling, basically remodeling to those areas. Nexus, what's your thoughts?
One of the projects Peter was referring to was the project we did with them at Central Schools, Norwood Young America. It's just like you said, in that the question two was brand new artificial turf football, brand new track, brand new wrestling, brand new auxiliary gym for volleyball, and brand new baseball fields. Every sport had a brand new, you know what I mean? So that was whereas you're doing exactly like you said, deferred maintenance, the floors weren't out, right? The lights are unsafe, it buzz out there like crazy, no one wants to throw the switch, they're unsafe, you know what I mean? So like, you don't have any, the only thing here possibly, if you would push you say is, the fitness center, but that means it stays where it is if you don't gain that clean land robotics area. You know what I mean? There's a trade-off, but that's the only maybe good point, you can bolt on or bolt off,
Yeah, I'm just looking at the new construction stuff in front of the pool would be one of the only things, so that's a wrestling room and a fitness center.
Right, and the rest of the rooms, remember, were kind of in multi-purpose. They use it a lot for FIAD and indoor recess. And when you lose that lower take on 1917, you're kind of, you're only replacing what you already have in a way. Whereas fitness.
How many square feet is that area again? Do you remember just roughly where that pan is it?
Which
Of the multi-purpose room, we call it fitness room?
One of the two of them, both of them together? Or?
Yeah, both of them together.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I'll pull up my computer. Look.
While he's looking that up, something to consider is, if you were to go with two questions, what would be something I think you'd want to consider is question 2 would be contingent on question 1. Okay, so you don't end up ticket splitting.
Absolutely.
Could you repeat that? I didn't quite catch the end of that, sorry.
Yeah, maybe we could turn that microphone down.
This is. Hi, Jackie, this is Mike David with Nexus. I was saying that if you were to consider 2 questions, what we would encourage you to do, what's been done successfully elsewhere, is to make question 2 contingent on question 1, meaning that question 2 can't pass unless question 1 passes. That way you don't have people making a choice of one or the other. And the idea is that question 1 squarely focuses on purely education or academic items, deferred maintenance, things of that nature. Question 2, maybe is sports. But again, the sports can't pass until the first question passes. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you. I guess I just look at it as we've scaled back quite a bit. And I know that it'd be easy to scale down and not, actually, I'm sorry, it would not be easy to do the scaling. But I also think Peter mentioned, the Yes campaign and educating people, and that people are listening. My fear is if you split into 2 questions, is to have 2 questions to bring down that first dollar amount. We're still going to be if that doesn't pass, we're not going to be serving our students efficiently. I mean, if we can't get a theater to pass, that's not fair to any of those kids. And if we don't do something in Rhode Island that's still not listening to that population either, that is saying something has to be done, even though the higher population is saying that's too much money. My fear is that if we just settle to do two votes, we're not going to accomplish what we're trying to do. And would it be better to promote and educate in the community to say why we stuck with what we did? Because how much would it take to lower the dollar amount of a vote? Like, how much would we have to scale back to even make an impact?
Right, I think that's, Peter maybe touched on that if I got that right. He said, you get down to like 13, I think he said, down from like 17 or 18 to 13. That's a noticeable difference, but right, is $1 gonna make the difference?
Yeah, if you, easy enough, right, to just say, Rhode Island's second question. Well, that's not fair either. Like, that's not, we need those amenities to make our curriculum and our students, and we still need that part of it. We've been very adamant about that this whole time. Outside of that, we're just kicking the can down the road and not fix something potentially. If it's the track, if it's something athletic, like wrestling's going to be displaced. So even if we save a little bit not to do that area, we still have to find them a home. Right. So I guess I kind of lean towards the one question and really being in our community and educating and having informational meetings and coffee talk shops, like out and about.
Messaging and education is much easier with one question as opposed to 2. It's just simpler. So in terms of that, that it definitely favors 1. Again, you got to offset that with you've got the right plan. The challenge is cost, but as Peter said, it's winnable. And we've seen other surveys that look similar to this, and they ran a very effective and aggressive campaign and vote yes group, and they've exceeded these numbers. So it's doable.
Well, I'm looking through the list that Elliot sent of the items that come up with this budget. And I'm looking, what could we separate out of here? And there really isn't anything standalone. The only thing I could think of based upon this that wouldn't affect the rest of the construction is the athletic field upgrade, stadium lighting replacement to LED fixtures. But the problem is that if those are dangerous. They need to be fixed anyways, regardless. And I think when it comes down to messaging, if you look at some of this, just going through the numbers, we got probably, in my estimation, based upon previous numbers I saw, is we're probably looking at $10 to $12 million of maintenance we'd have to put into these buildings within the next 2 years just to keep the doors open. So our public needs to know, if we don't do something, A, we lose our school district, or you're gonna get slapped with $12 million worth of stuff that could be thrown away in the future, regardless. Because if we have to just go replacing like con, because we're not tearing stuff apart, that's just the reality situation. So it's we either spend our $40 million and get a facility that we all can be proud of that's looking forward, or you're gonna spend $12 million for what we have or not have a school. I mean, that's really what we're looking at, in my opinion. And the message, I think, has to be that clear and that simple.
And I agree. I like the one question. I kind of agree. I think from all the comments is that we don't have that one specific new thing that we can just eliminate. And I know I asked some of the questions too about the fitness multi-purpose room. If we're going to expand the ag tech area, whatever over there, I mean, that's where the new fitness area comes from. And the wrestling area moving out of the old side over there. So I don't want the public to think we're just throwing out $39 million and haven't put a lot of thought into where we can save some money. Nor do I want them to realize that we're not going to approve this, hand the money over to Nexus or the builders, and we walk away. I think we're all pretty committed here to reviewing all the quotes, all the bids, and the projects that come in. So I think it's important, and we talk about education to the community, that we're not just approving $39 million and we're walking away. There'll still be a group of us here that will be watching where that money is spent and making sure that we're getting the most that we can for it. So yeah, I guess I'm a one question vote. I guess I don't know what's the rest of the.
I think I am too.
Yep.
Looking at the survey, doesn't look horribly bad. I mean, it's in the positive. So one question would be definitely easier.
Right.
I think the plan gives something to everybody. Everybody's getting something in this plan. And
Not everyone's gonna be 100% happy either way.
but it gives something to everybody. It updates our school. I think we should move forward.
It's moving our education abilities forward. They wanna increase the VOTEC side, we're increasing the VOTEC side. I mean, I think that's important message to share. If that was an important person, part of the community, let's face it, we're an agricultural community. Sooner or later, we gotta try to keep our young people here. Because the land's not going away.
And I think Rhode Island is a very important part of this.
We're giving Rhode Island a building to be proud of.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great plan. Unfortunately, we can't bring kids over there, but it's like you say, you can't make everybody happy.
What's the percentage of this island hub is gonna go through?
Mark, can we put you on the spot or?
Sure.
All right, sorry.
We're still waiting on federal, that's about 1.2 million. And state bonding, of course, we didn't get in this time because they ran out of cash with state bonding of sorts. And so right now, I talked with, I was gonna chase Dean Ertl down the street on the Rhode Island parade. He was so far behind his car and he's running so fast. I thought that probably wasn't a good idea. So I waited until he got done and I talked to him for a little bit. And he said the next step would be to detail our specs, what we have for detailed specs, and send it to the Office of Budget and Management. And they'll kind of go through it with a more fine tooth comb. And they're the ones that scheduled the host committee tours, which he said would be in September. So we've done a walkthrough in the over there. It was Ryan Sheehan, Susie, and myself, and Jeff Phillips. And what we thought would need to be done on the inside there, just on the island top half. And Brent's took those and made a walk through coming up here to himself. And then he'll nail down what our costs are. And that's what we'd be sending into the Office of Budget and Management, and looking for upwards of $4 million from the state. So we have a total of 5.3. Gene thought we might even push that but it all depends upon what our costs are. So it's a matter. Dean was pretty positive we can get it through, and that would be so that'd be next. So well, they set up in January, so maybe by May. So by that point in time, you'd know where your requirements at. We wouldn't know ours until they actually leave. So pretty positive, but you never know.
Yeah, I guess the reason for the question was if that doesn't get done or it's not on the same schedule as ours, how does that impact or affect our plan? I guess that's the main question. So like if, let's say that's delayed or it gets to go ahead beforehand, how does that affect our plan and what we need to do?
We had a little discussion on that previously.
Okay.
Well, if you want to, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, the good news is it's pretty clean as far as being mutually exclusive.
Okay.
And that it doesn't negatively impact our plan. We can still do what we need to do on the western half, right? And get all the new gas fired ventilation in there and do all that. The east half or east portion would, I wouldn't go and demo. I wouldn't take down the 3-story section until we know the fate of the island. So the knocking that down, building that gravel parking lot, putting a new east facade on there, we do one of the last things. So by then we'll know what the fate of them.
Okay.
There's some financial contingencies that would have to be included, so we know we're covered to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
But
what we're doing with the roofing, considering doing with the roofing as far as extending that warranty versus replacement, those funds are going to be available in the event that the state doesn't come through with funding for Island Hub, and if it's just a no-go on that portion, we'd have cash to do $100,000 to knock down that remaining southeast portion. So we've thought about it, we've got a plan.
Mark, this probably isn't a politically correct question, but generally speaking, are you okay with our direction and what we're seeing here?
For Rhode Island? or
Yeah,
whole project?
the whole project, and Bird Island, but and certainly don't feel like I want to put you on the
Well,
spot.
I spend most of my time first in Rhode Island, and the things that I've seen in Olivia sound good to me. And you guys put a lot of thought into it, and everybody, Jackie and everybody. So it looks good. Rhode Island, I think it'll be nice to get all these done. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly want to hear.
Because that's when the camera, we're gonna vote yes.
I wasn't thinking politically incorrect, but that's. So.
Well, if Rhode Island's out there, yeah, I think yes.
Randy, to answer your question, the fitness center is about 3,000 square feet, the multi-purpose is about 4.
Okay. It's really not a large area. It's a big budget number, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's a.
Yeah, where did I just saw that? Multi-purpose wrestling edition with storage is 2.7 million.
2.79 million. Is that what you said?
2.7.
2.7 million is the wrestling multi-purpose fitness center with storage.
Wouldn't which wouldn't drop the tax base much in the project.
6-7%.
I think it's important too to understand that, well, it just seems like it's just fitness, it's just athletics. We do have a lot of kids that come here because of athletics. A significant number of kids come here for that. So we're also investing in those people from outside of our district who are a large part of our revenue.
And that space is also used for curriculum.
Right, multi-purpose.
Well, I think the more questions we can come up with as to why we wouldn't do it, gives us the answers that we need to educate going forward.
We want to start capturing a lot of these things and creating a frequently asked questions. Thing on the website, on the campaign website, because you're right, if you're asking them, tell what our voters are gonna ask, so let's get the answers up there.
Okay, maybe we do an easy one, or an easier one first, but recommendation from us on a one vote, or a one question or two question. That says one, Greg says one, Todd? Denny? Okay, Jim? Okay,
Jackie,
Jackie.
one vote, one.
I agree as well, so I'd say it's unanimous from all the facilities board that's present today, that we proceed with just one question on the ballot would be our recommendation.
One real question on this as we go through. Is that an outdoor entrance to the pool?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
I currently
Which
have,
is why we have the secure line there?
And.
Okay.
Rest fitness.
Yep. okay.
I currently have outdoors
Yeah.
going to the outside. I have a set of double doors to prevent people walking back and forth. They're not always locked, but it gives me a division in case I have an event during the day while school is in session.
And I think on that note too, it's important to mention that things could certainly move around in the plan, yet that our basics are there, but it's only a basic plan,
Correct.
so that people don't think this is set in stone, right? It can be moved around and rearranged or whatever makes sense as we go forward, so.
Right, but I think it's important to be able to give our thought process on how we came up with all of these ideas, because there's been a lot of noodling going on, and we just need to bring that forward, say, we just didn't throw blocks on a paper and move them around. We thought about why and how.
All right. That's it, still subject to change.
No,
Okay, then I would ask for recommendations, if we want to recommend that, well, what should proper wording be today, Jim? We're gonna recommend that, to the board that they submit this for the state review. Is that proper word?
Recommend to the board that the board authorizes Nexus and administration to submit a review and comment to the MPE based on the 3939 $5 million plan discussed.
Great,
And that for November, about that, right? That's what we're pushing
November
for,
vote.
November.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in agreement, yeah.
Yes.
Greg is a yes,
Yes.
Benny, and Jim, and I am, so yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
And Jackie, sorry, Jackie, I know you're, right?
Yeah.
So again, a unanimous recommendation for the board to proceed from the facilities committee members that are present today.
Now, when you make this presentation to the board, do you want do we need to be prepared for anything we go to the board as far as questions or anything like that they may ask? I'm assuming you want us to be there, or would like us to be to the.
It'd be nice if we could have a representative there.
It means you want to come or wants to come. Just come.
That meeting is directly after this, correct?
It's at 5.
Five, okay. Okay. We can discuss that once the state, or, okay. Okay, well, our recommendations have been made. Again, we're not making a formal vote, we're making a recommendation, so I think we've all done that. Any other business since we're here that we'd like to discuss? Or any fires we're putting out the last?
No, we managed to fix the two ACs. The one we might have to take down and put a different freon in. just to get us by.
For this area down here.
Actually, it's for the area that we're taking down, but we gotta have it. Other than that, there's a leak in one of them, but we tried some magic potion. Hopefully that gets us behind the ocean.
So as far as the educational part of this thing, I think it's a question we need to talk to the board about just to keep them up to speed. What's our timeline? If we get approved in November, when are we breaking ground? The following summer?
Design process will take about 6 months. Design and bidding. Design bidding could be 5 to 7 months. Closer to 7 months, so that puts us in May. So it'd be bidding in May, breaking ground late next summer. You're not gonna
Sorry,
get.
you're cutting out for me.
You're, so sorry about that, Jackie. If the vote's successful in November, we'd enter the design process, which would take about 6 months, and then the bidding process is another month. And you're breaking ground in next summer, later next summer. I mean, contractors can't, they might win the bid, but it doesn't mean they've got crews ready the next day. So, yeah, mobilize. So you're not gonna get much work done this summer of '24.
Right.
Most of it's gonna be, if we come out of the ground next fall, and you're gonna be working through 25 and through the summer of '26.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get some concrete in the ground
Yeah.
before the snow flies. in
Exactly.
24.
Or
So-
something close.
So, and the reason why I bring that up is what maintenance items do we need to have, provided we're gonna be in these buildings into 25? That's the question, because there could be, I mean, obviously I don't have a magic wand, but what are things that are out there right now that we need to do, that we know to keep us in these buildings into 25?
I think that boiler out over Verizon is probably your biggest concern.
Yeah.
Right? That's something with, as far as the ventilation and heating, that's something we can jump on.
We're looking at 25, probably the ventilation over there would have to be looked at. I mean, a little more serious.
But, being in the building is, it's not occupied all day long over there. We can work during the day.
Right.
I think, and during the winter, I think we can, that's probably one of the first things we'll do is take that concern of heating plant over there offline. Get that done, one of the first things. So we have that done, it's up by the summer, 25, I believe.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, because these are questions we might have, because I think it's very important to understand that, yeah, hey, we passed a good thing, well, we're still not gonna be in a new building until 25. So we still gotta operate it, so we need to have a plan going forward, well, we're gonna attack this, we're gonna attack this. That's how we can make it work.
Says something in Rhode Island that we can put in the new ventilation system and then shut down. That'd be the first thing.
It was one of the things we can, yes, one of the first things we
I know we had talked about possibly moving some kids over there while
No,
we.
that's why it wouldn't be done first. Yeah.
I haven't put together a phasing plan yet, to get the cart ahead of the horse a little bit, if I do.
Yeah.
I guess that's a bad mojo. There's a potential we could use, if we had the ventilation and heating up to snuff, those west classrooms has some swing space, if we need it. I think we can, if you look at the remodeling being done primarily on the elementary wing and the high school wing here, we can do that over 2 summers. We can concentrate that elementary wing 1 summer, and the high school wing isn't nearly as invasive, and we can do that following summers. There's a good chance we're not going to need to use for out of the space, but I'd like to have it as a backup contingency.
Okay, well, maybe keep that on the list, Danny, if you think of something that you say, major that you say, no way this is gonna make it a year, just so, like Pat said, we have some
I
idea
think-
something could be coming.
The work that we've done last fall and through the winter, the heating system has me more worried. But if we keep just kind of attacking them the way we have been, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it was a lot of money and that came through in December, but I mean, we ran lines. We eliminated some of the issues. So hopefully care units themselves, they're day to day, week to week. I mean, who knows where.
Yeah, no, we understand that completely. It's just a matter of, it's
Well, we
like,
don't-
we know that this is, so like, again, so if we know this happens, we can, we can jump on that unit over there right away because we know that that's a critical issue.
I mean,
Yeah, that guys gets one more year. One more winter at that point, is what I'm saying.
What about the roofing part of it? The warranty thing, is that something we can,
We could do that, instantly, basically. I mean, we can get that going.
Well, we've got money that we've reserved to do that, the gym roof in Bird Island. And we could probably put that towards,
You could do that without, you just have to pay for it versus, you don't have to wait for the results or anything.
right.
I think that's something we should try to get going, so the roofs are in good condition before we start working on the inside.
Yeah.
And what's the update on the pool? What's the opening date?
And time, we want to know date and time.
Oh, yeah, that's a joke. So the walk-in cooler that we're gonna put the electrical in is coming the week of August 25th. And there's 5 to 7 transport days, so it'll be September. And they are working on the electrical. We've got several things done. They've prepped a few things. But they can do so much and then they'll have to wait until they've taken the motors out and taken them to the motor shop to be gone through. Denny's talked to Chapel Central and they're starting to order the other things that we had quotes on.
Where are the kids going for swimming lessons over the summer?
I heard some were going to Redwood, some were going to Renville. Not sure. I was hoping
I know
to,
some are going to Fairfax.
Yeah.
That's right, they got one.
I do know that, some are requesting for me to let them know as soon as we open and wanting to know if we're gonna do fall lessons, which we've done once or twice, but we have to work around athletics using our locker rooms, so it gets complicated having teenagers in there with small kids and that type of thing, so. And parents trying to change small kids and that type of thing.
Do you think, sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tracy. Do you think though, because this is such a rare incident that we could have summer lessons, that there's some compromise we could do for fall? I just feel fall lessons are going to be extremely important, as Tracy, I'm sure you do too this year, because we didn't get to have it in our community this summer.
I
So it's
do,
important that we
I
catch
do.
back up. So is there something you could do, Jim, with the school?
I do think we can do some private lessons, but I also have to have staff to do it. So, I mean, it's all great to say I'm gonna do fall lessons, but if I don't have anybody to be in the water doing them, it doesn't do me any good. I'm losing several staff to college, and I don't have any new staff coming in currently. I'm trying to do a class in Wilmer. I'm trying to find water wherever I can. And I'm trying to recruit, but I haven't been very lucky the last 6 months to a year. So it is my plan to do lessons in November. It gets a little complicated, but it all depends on my staffing as well. Private lessons, I've already had a few people tell me as soon as we open that they'd like to do some private lessons. We'll try to do those right after school so we don't influence whatever's going on.
Have we reached out to like RCW, Wilmer, Redwood, Fairfax, just to let them know what's going on, to see if there's potential capacity to, I mean, I'm just looking at if we needed a bus to take kids over, just to help alleviate missing swimming lessons.
No, because I really didn't know that my cooler wasn't coming in till a week or two ago. I really had hopes that I was gonna do a session in August or late July. So no, I did not get that done before school ended.
I guess I wasn't thinking before school ended just because of what you said, but I just was thinking now, like, is there, could they do a special session just for our, some of our kids to come over? Just if there's a transportation need, things like that. I guess I'm just trying to come up with random ideas of.
It's certainly something we could put
for their
some,
lessons.
we've got ESSER funds that we could even put
It is
towards developing some of that.
It is possible. I'm in regular contact with RCW. I have reached out to Fairfax once or twice. I don't really have a contact in Redwood currently. But Hector shut down a few years ago, and a lot of them are either coming here or going to Hutch. Depending on where they're at, they're maybe even going to Glencoe. And people are just waiting for us to reopen as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
I'll mention quick the Bird Island Splash Pad project. You may remember 2 years ago, it's a long time. We first started talking about donating some land to the Splash Pad project, kind of by the south of the baseball diamonds there. And the board approved at their September 20th meeting to a purchase agreement with them. The agreement is just, we finally got it good to go. We were waiting on them. We weren't waiting on the purchase agreement, but we did have to get it resurveyed. So we've got an actual legal description, and hopefully we can get that signed and get the splash pad being built.
Fantastic. Good
Yeah.
job to the people that pushed that.
Very
That's
cool
great.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
When do they plan on breaking ground?
Well, we got it, yeah, they're hoping to get some start on it at the end of the month here, yeah.
Already?
But they can't schedule anything until we get them the agreement, and I've got that. I just gotta print it out now.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we will adjourn.
Oh, Jackie's.
Jackie? Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm like waving.
You're good.
over here, except Jim. I guess I just want to say, I think we should think about our next mailer too. At least I've had people approach me and say, it's been very nice to get a mailer. So I think just keeping consistency and that easy to read and understand, especially being with what we just heard with the survey, I think that should be something on our radar to keep going.
Good idea, I agree.
Oh, and I will say the website was updated, so the newsletter, if somebody actually didn't get one in the mail for some reason, they're posted online. So I just wanted to let our committee know that Deb from Nexus made sure on the website that the actual newsletter is online, so it's accessible to everybody.
Great. Anybody else have anything? Okay, then we will adjourn and we won't schedule another meeting, I guess, till it'll be a little while, I guess, probably till you guys have something more to share with us, maybe. So, okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, thanks, Deb.
Okay.
I have one question.
Question? One more question?